So when an entire ecosystem is right on the brink of collapse, rivers are drying up, forests are just vanishing, who do you call for help? You might think of scientists, maybe conservationists, but what if the real saviors were rabbits or beavers and wolves? Sounds crazy, I know, but let's dive into this and see how some of the planet's most surprising engineers have literally reshaped entire worlds.
I mean, seriously, can they? It sounds like something straight out of a fairy tale, right? But this question is at the heart of a truly wild story, one that really pushes the limits of what we think is possible in nature.
Okay, so picture this. Just a few decades ago, this place was basically a lifeless sea of sand. I mean, nothing grew, nothing lived there. Then, a Chinese scientist comes along with this totally radical idea. Let's release a colony of Rex rabbits and just see what happens.
And the results? Well, they were reportedly astonishing. The rabbits got right to work, completely transforming the landscape. Their constant digging acted like a giant tilling machine, loosening up all that compacted earth. Their waste, well, it provided vital nutrients and spread seeds all over the place. And because rabbits do what rabbits do best, their population just exploded into the millions, creating this huge furry workforce. The legend says plant survival rates hit an unbelievable 96%.
Now here's where this incredible story gets really interesting. It might not be true at all. The source material for this explainer is super clear on this. There are no reliable, verifiable sources to confirm this rabbit mission ever actually happened. So it's a fantastic legend for sure, but for the rest of our journey, we're going to stick to the scientifically confirmed cases. So let's move from legend to fact. We're heading over to the United States to look at two very real, very different ecosystems that were in deep crisis, and the animal engineers who actually came to the rescue. So on one hand, you've got Utah's Price River. It was suffering from this severe drought and heat, and the river itself was literally drying up. Then, on the other hand, you have Yellowstone National Park, where a booming elk population was systematically eating the entire forest into oblivion. Two totally different problems, right? But as we're about to see, both were solved by reintroducing a key animal.
In Utah, the answer was the beaver. Researchers relocated them to the Price River, and the beavers immediately started doing what they were born to do: build. Their dams created this whole network of ponds and wetlands, which stored precious water and kept it from just evaporating during droughts. This one small change had these huge ripple effects, saving fish populations, which in turn supported the whole food web and made the entire ecosystem way more resilient.
So what about Yellowstone? Well, the problem wasn't a lack of water. It was an out-of-control elk population. And the reason they were so out of control was because their natural predator, the wolf, was totally missing from the equation. Humans had actually hunted them to extinction in the park way back in the 1920s.
Then, in 1995, wolves were brought back. And what happened next is just a stunning example of something called a trophic cascade. It's this chain reaction that just ripples down through an entire ecosystem when a top predator is added or removed. The wolves didn't even have to hunt that many elk. Their very presence changed how the elk behaved. The elk stopped just hanging out in open valleys, which allowed trees like willows and aspens to finally recover. This brought back the birds. It also gave beavers the wood they needed to build their dams, which cooled the rivers down and helped the fish thrive. Amazing, right?
Okay, so we've seen how animals can re-engineer a river or a forest. But now, let's zoom out. I mean, way out. We're going to look at an invisible line that divides the entire animal kingdom on a global scale.
This is the Wallace Line. It's named after Alfred Russel Wallace, who discovered it while he was exploring the islands between Asia and Australia. He noticed something totally bizarre. The animals on one side of this imaginary line were completely different from the animals on the other.
And the difference is just striking. On the Asian side, you find animals like rhinos, monkeys, and elephants. But you cross that invisible line, and suddenly you're in a world of cockatoos and marsupials. It's like an invisible wall separates two entirely different evolutionary worlds, even though they're just a few miles apart.
So what caused this? Well, the answer lies in millions of years of geology. When Australia broke away from Antarctica, it opened up this deep ocean channel, creating a massive swirling current. That current, in turn, dramatically cooled the climate. Australian animals adapted to this new, cool, dry world, while Asian animals kept thriving in the warm, tropical conditions. So the Wallace Line isn't a physical barrier, it's a climatic one that most species just couldn't cross.
From an invisible wall, we're now going to turn to a physical bridge, one that sparked one of the biggest migration events in the history of life on Earth.
See, for tens of millions of years, South America was an island continent, a lot like Australia, and life there evolved in total isolation. This resulted in some incredible creatures you just couldn't find anywhere else. Giant ground sloths, massive armadillo-like glyptodons, and even fearsome flightless terror birds.
Then, about 3 million years ago, tectonic plates shifted and volcanic activity created a land bridge, the Isthmus of Panama. For the very first time, the two continents were connected, and it was like the floodgates of migration just swung wide open.
A wave of animals started heading north. Giant sloths, armadillos, and porcupines successfully made their way into North America, and the opossum, a classic South American original, is actually still with us today.
But the traffic going south was even more intense. A huge wave of highly adaptable predators, like saber-toothed tigers and wolves, poured into the new continent. They were joined by large herbivores like camels and horses, whose descendants would eventually become the llamas and vicuñas we see today. And speaking of bears, get a load of this. The North American short-faced bear, one of those migrants, could stand up to 13 feet tall on its hind legs. It was an absolute giant, a true heavyweight of the interchange.
So what was the outcome of this massive continental clash? Well, in general, the North American animals who had evolved in a more competitive environment just fared better. And this massive exchange is the reason the animal life of the Americas is distributed the way it is today.
So, from a legendary rabbit colony all the way to the reunion of two continents, we've seen that life isn't just a collection of separate pieces. It's a deeply, deeply interconnected web.
This quote, which is inspired by that Yellowstone story, it just perfectly captures our central theme. Removing the wolves nearly broke an entire ecosystem. Adding the beavers helped heal another one. Every single species, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, it really does play a role.
And that leaves us with a final and pretty important question. We've seen how animals can be these powerful engineers of change, but humans, we are the ultimate ecosystem engineers. So seeing just how delicate and interconnected this web really is, what does that mean for our role within it? Definitely something to think about.